So Duarte, welcome to the pod. Thank you for joining today. I'm looking forward to have a conversation with you about AI, about how AI is actually changing marketing and go-to-market. But first off, would you mind bringing us back to the moment when DojoAI for you became inevitable?
And I guess that's a good word to describe it. That's exactly how I think of it. But, well, first of all, thanks for having me, Christian. Very happy to be here. I think it goes back to the start of my career. I spent, I guess, the best half of 10 years working with big companies, Fortune 100. So I was leading marketing at Coke. I was leading marketing at Standard Chartered, at Sky. And when I decided that I was well, I guess I was a little bit bored and I wanted a bit more agility. Just wanted to do better marketing, right? I decided that I was going to move and start working with startups and scale-ups as a growth consultant. So this
Mhm.
was a hard decision, but one that I'm very proud of. That brought me a lot of joy. I worked with different companies in the tech space, fintech, climate tech. I eventually did a short stint as a vice president of growth on the fintech. But one of the things that I realized with working with all these different, what I call challenger brands, was that marketing was a very different function than what I was used to. It definitely wasn't the vibe that I had at Coca-Cola or Sky. I saw CMOs with very short tenures getting sacked after 7, 10 months on the job. I saw the teams very stressed, unable to cope with the amount of data, with the amount of tools, with the amount of platforms. And for me, I wanted to understand why. Why was this such a different scenario than the one I was used to? And the conclusion I came to was that technology, marketing technology specifically, doesn't help challenger brands.
Mhm.
Most founders who start MarTech tools, they do it opportunistically to favor enterprise customers. So they're land and expand tools. They are very hard to get rid of tools. And most of them are siloed in their data, are quite complex to use. Some of them are so bad to use that you actually have to pay the company for services on top of the tools. I'm not going to name and shame them, but I know a few who run that business model. And if you're a smaller team of 5, 10, 15 people, it's actually very hard to manage a large tech stack. And if you layer on top of that the platforms, you get Google, Meta, LinkedIn, Twitter, TikTok, all of them with their own dashboards, with their own data, with their own workflows, with their own intricacies. And if you don't have the specialized know how in house, what you end up doing is you end up resorting to external partners. You start bringing in the agencies and the consultancies, and the overhead starts piling. And I saw that a lot, and I saw it as a huge point of friction and criticism within the C-suite. I saw a lot of CEOs saying, if we have 5 people in the marketing team and each of them has its own agency, then what am I paying them for? And that's when the trouble started. I saw this as an opportunity to actually help these brands. I believe that AI is coming to level the playing field, to give smaller companies a lot more capabilities, enterprise capabilities, but without the enterprise cost or complexity.
Mhm.
And it's going to allow these smaller brands to be competitive against the incumbents. And we're going to see a huge shift. And I believe this deeply. So when we started Dojo with the mission to give challenger brands these enterprise capabilities in marketing. What
Mhm.
that means pulling in all of your data from all of your platforms, the Google data, metadata, LinkedIn data, Twitter data, etc. Pulling in all of your SEO data, pulling in all of your brand data, doing market research, and essentially building a sort of digital twin of your whole marketing operation, a single
Mhm.
source of truth. And then if you layer on top of that an intelligent system and a system of agents that help you gather the data, grab you the insights, help you with strategy, helping you create campaigns and content, optimize it, measure it at scale, then suddenly you feel like you have a team of 100 when you have a team of 10. So that's what we've built at Dojo.
Seems like magic to me. But you've experienced very rapid growth. You were sharing some numbers, not to put them publicly here, but you have almost zero churn. You have adoption growing within each client that you work with. how have you been growing so far? What has been your acquisition type of motion? And where do you see this shifting over the next few months now that you're 1 year old?
I mean, so we're not 1 year old yet. It's still 2 weeks to go. Almost there.
Okay.
Almost there. We'll,
Happy first in advance.
I know. Um, so, we have a very product-centric culture at Dojo. Product and customer, right? Those are the two pillars of everything that we do. We believe that if we build great product that delivers true value to our users, that's the best way to grow, particularly at the beginning, right? The truth is we didn't need that many levers. I didn't hire a sales team. I didn't hire a marketing team. We have a very strong engineering team to build the product. And then we have a customer success manager and myself. And that's the company so far. And our first non-technical hire was a customer success manager because that's, and that's the emphasis that we put in customer satisfaction, but also because we want to take the right learnings from usage of the product. So we keep a very close eye on how our customers are onboarded, how they use the product, and we ensure that they're successful using it. And if they're not, we want to understand why, and that will feed that back to the product team, and we will change the product roadmap accordingly. So for us, we've been growing, honestly, mostly through word of mouth. And, we had our first joint event this week with an agency that's a brand building agency that actually reached out to us and said, we love what you guys are doing. It fits what we do really well. This is an agency that thinks outside the box, sees the role that the agency will take in the future, which is a much more a creative brand building role. And we joined hands and we kind of had our first customer event. So we brought in people, Dojo users and non-Dojo users alike. And it was such a success. And then I took over LinkedIn and there were people asking for referral codes. There were people saying, we heard great things about Dojo, and we started seeing people come in. And that's kind of how we've been growing, just by having our first user. They love us. Tell someone else about it. They love us. Tell someone else about it. And
word of mouth
to grow very quickly just through that. And we're off the list, right? We haven't opened yet, but we're watching growing very steadily.
So where do you see this being needed to be in order to scale faster? Where do you see this being adjusted for the future in the next few months?
There's going to be a change for sure. I know that what takes us to 1 million in ARR doesn't take us to 10. What takes us to 10 doesn't take us to 100. I know what GTM levers I need to pull in each different stage. We'll obviously, I guess, reassess once we're there. We'll test different things.
Yeah.
But we figure out the motion that takes us to 1 million. Okay. That's our first goal. After that, we will need to be looking at paid media. We'll need to be looking at SEO. We will probably need to be looking at outbound. But for now, we don't need those levers. Perfect.
So I want to go back to, this is very interesting, by the way, and congrats on your growth. Very inspiring. I want to understand a little bit your point of view on AI adoption at the moment. We hear different stats here and there on LinkedIn, wherever your source is. I read one the other day that said 71% of marketers say they're experimenting with AI, but very few are embedding it in their day-to-day kind of workflows, right? So my question is, what's keeping, because that's one of the main friction points that you probably hear, what's keeping those teams stuck at the prompt level?
So I actually think those stats come from big enterprise. That's one of the reasons why we're not catering to big enterprise right now. What we've noticed, and we had a huge pull, by the way. So we had a lot of big enterprises come and speak to us, join the wait list. The reality is that we've turned them down, quite sort of bluntly said, we're not a tool for you right now. And reality is that I know how those companies move. I know that they're window shopping when it comes to AI, because someone above said we need to try it out. But I also know they're not ready. They don't have the necessary agility. They don't have the necessary processes in place. And in a very transparent way, they don't have the necessary hunger and the pain.
Mm.
Marketing in big companies is comms and bread, and it's keeping the wheel turning. When I was doing marketing at Coca-Cola, marketing wasn't an engine of growth. Growth was already there.
Yeah.
Um,
Such a strong brand, right?
exactly. And when you work with startups, scale-ups, SMEs, you see, particularly those that are BC or B, you see that marketing needs to be an engine of growth.
Yeah.
And when marketing needs to be an engine of growth, that's when troubles start coming up. And that's when you
Sure.
start putting a bit more pressure. And that's the tool we want to build. We don't
Yeah.
want to build a tool for big enterprise because we believe that tools for big enterprise they end up being Franken tools. They die a slow death on the shelf. No one really cares whether they deliver value or not. Usually the incentives are on the wrong places. It's either politics or survival instinct from someone inside. And it's golf courses and steak dinners. And that's not the game we're playing. We want to build a real product for real companies, for real teams that want to see real results.
Yeah.
And that for us is really important. So I believe what I'm witnessing is that in that segment, adoption is fantastic. I mean,
Yeah.
our sales cycles are about 48 hours, right? Not
Amazing.
months or 12 months. So
Yeah.
actually incredibly fast to adopt. We make it very easy, to be honest.
Yeah.
We don't make them sign a yearly contract. We charge an affordable price for that size of company. We don't have hidden fees, no charge per seat, no charge per data or feature. We're very transparent. And that means that in our onboarding process is a 5-minute call to connect accounts. So all of that put together, and again, that comes back to our ethos. We did that because that in itself is a differentiation point. We will connect all of your accounts in 5 minutes. We'll onboard you to the next day, and we'll give you 1 week for free. But after that, we bill you every month. And if we don't deliver value, you turn us off. That keeps us on our toes. It keeps us building the right tool month on month. But also, it shortens our sales cycle, and we manage to grow organically very, very fast.
And you learn and iterate so fast by having this short cycle too, right? And I think this is one of the mistakes that I've seen in the past of SaaS tools that are designed for, so complex systems. Keeping it simple is probably the best marketing, right? And I see this from what you guys are doing. One simple pricing, easy onboarding. You said 48 hours, connecting all the tools. And most critically, I think, is time to value. And I hear that your customers are seeing time to value in like days, if like a few hours, once they start connecting everything. Few minutes. Here we go. Love that. I love that.
And going back to simplicity, that's a core value for us as well. We have kind of 3 main words that we repeat to exhaustion, which is simple, intelligent, and effective. That's what we want our tool to be, but that's also what we want our team to be, and our customer success to be, and our company to be.
Right.
And the simplicity is expressed in our brand visuals. It's expressed in our language. It's expressed in our onboarding. It's expressed in customer support, in our UX, in our UI, in the architecture of the tool. So all of this needs to be as one.
Yeah.
And I believe that us as marketers, we've overcomplicated our job massively. Everything is overly complex. The tools are, the programs are, the theories are. And then we went too far into the thought leaders on LinkedIn that might be relevant if you're a big company, a big brand. I'm thinking the Ehrenberg Boss Institute, System One, all of those that are actually talking about how to grow brands and how to do marketing properly if you're a huge established brand. If you're an incumbent, you can listen to that. You can look at those studies. You can take some learnings from that, maybe. But if you're actually competing and growing as a startup or a scale-up or a tech brand or a challenger, you cannot be listening to those thought leaders. You need to be operating on a day-to-day basis, delivering value, being effective every day. So that's
right. with a product at the core that delivers amazing value, right? Because of course the product is the center of everything. Once you have the product, like your company is built on true success pillars, scalability afterwards is done through organically very fast, right? And I think you're a great example of that. You spoke about broken processes and things of that nature. I want to talk about optimization, because a 10% boost on a broken process is still a broken process at the end of the day, right? So in your view, what's the most common go-to-market task that companies are automating at the moment that they should probably not automate and instead free up some time to apply to creativity instead? Where do you see that gap at the moment where there's too much automation in a specific area of the go-to-market engine?
I have a problem with the word automation overall because,
Okay.
again, with the sort of advent of digital marketing, we got used to automation as an efficiency gain. We could automate posts, we could automate blogs, we could automate emails, we could create sequences, deterministic sequences. And I don't think any of that actually works very well. And I don't think it suits the dynamic, ever-changing environment of the market. What I mean by that is, some people are calling it vibe marketing. I don't love the word, but the reality is that marketing should adapt to the market on a day-to-day basis. You need to be fluid and vibing, by using that term. You cannot schedule a month's post in advance. You cannot schedule 20 blog posts in advance, because once the fifth one goes out, it's already irrelevant. And it's not strategic anymore. It doesn't fit the trend. It doesn't fit the narrative. And it doesn't fit the opportunity. And it's the same thing for campaigns. It is definitely the same thing for email drip cadences and sequences of, first touch point, second touch point. If it does this, then we do this. If it does that, then we do that. That's not how marketing works, because what you need to do is you need to use AI to build an intelligent system around your marketing that knows everything that's happening every day and that can advise you on what to publish, what to create, what to do, who to reach out to. And this is now possible. That should free you up to be what every marketer wants to be, I think, and what every marketer tries to be. But they've been sort of corralled into this almost tool operating function.
Mm-hmm.
What they want to be is creative.
That's so true. And that's a very good point. You hear go-to-market engineering right now with different tools that, not naming some, but Clay being one of them. It's incredible, the promise of automating it. I'm the first one. I want to know what's behind this magic formula. And I'm the first to answer those LinkedIn posts that require to comment something just to have a good sense of what's happening in the market. But I think we are just shooting ourselves in the foot. We see it by the level of outreach that individuals are getting. I'm getting more outreach than ever. And I hear around me, speaking to friends, that everyone's getting the volume is just up. The noise is so up that it's tough to see the signal in a proper setup like you're referring to, which in all transparency, I haven't seen your tool hands-on. It seems like the next evolution of marketing where you have this co-pilot that helps you navigate through the noise and identify the right signal. And I think this is what you are about, as opposed to just creating more noise, because all those tools are creating noise and you still need to filter through that noise. And it takes a lot of work and it sucks the energy out of the marketing team, right?
And it gives you a false sense of accomplishment.
Yes.
You're saying, and very rightly, that it can deliver short-term results, but it's more than short-term. What it gives you is, I was speaking to a colleague the other day who was asking about this outreach tool, much like the one you were talking about, a go-to-market tool like clay, etc. And he was saying, well, we've got about 1 to 2% response rate on all of the outreach that we're doing, which is great. That's not great, right? That's concerning because that means that you're spamming 99% of people that are looking at your brand or interacting with your brand. And that's terrible. That actually causes long-term effects on brand building and on the success of your marketing. So the growth engineering phase of marketing is coming to an end, and good riddance. Because one, marketers were never growth engineers. They tried their best, but not in their core skill set, right? And the tools were not transparent, are not transparent. The promise of direct attribution and dollar for dollar was always false and misleading. And third, that's just not what marketing is about. Marketing is not supposed to be a slot machine. Marketing is supposed to be how you create a real connection to users and how you grow your business through your brand and through your product. And that's the first principles that we think about at Dojo. We're building the tool. So we're not an sequence automating tool. We are, and it's also not, you mentioned a co-pilot. It's more than a co-pilot. It's having an intelligent system that understands everything that's happening around you, whether that's paid, whether that's organic, whether that's reputation, whether that's performance. And it helps you do the best with the information that you have. But in a world, and I know that this world is coming really quickly, like a train, in a world where everyone has a system like this, differentiator will be the people that you onboard, that you have on your marketing team, and the creativity of those people, the capacity of those people to really differentiate your brand, to really understand the people on the other side of your product or service. That's how you're going to stand out. Tech will come easy, it'll come cheap, it'll be widespread. So you need to hire not for technical expertise anymore, because that's going to be not automated, it's going to be autonomous. You're going to hire for creativity, for strategic and critical thinking, because that's always going to be important. Actually, it's going to be more important than ever.
I love to hear that because as a marketer, I always ask myself existential question. And you start comparing yourself with individuals online. You're like, wow, these guys are so advanced in terms of what we were talking about, go-to-market engineering and all that stuff. So you start digging and see if it's a fit for you. And then you step back and you're like, hold on a second. This is not the game I want to play, right? I want to put forth all the knowledge I've acquired over the years and the experience through depth in terms of business knowledge, because that's one of the most, I think this is going to be the most in demand skill in the near future. Currently, it's already started where you need a well-rounded individual who's been there, right? Who's touched different sides, who's been entrepreneur, worked for large companies, smaller brands, SaaS brand, not like a one in a very small mold, but one that can really fit in different mold. That's the kind of individuals with that kind of thinking that you want to contribute the engine that you just talked about and work creatively with the go-to-market intelligence platform that like yours, right?
Agreed.
Let's riff on this for a second. Where do you see the biggest contribution of marketers in the future, like go-to-market leaders? Where do you see them adding the most value? Because to a certain point, when we reach 2027, some are saying 2030, when you have AGI and you were in a different game. I was reading a post the other day where it said that the intelligence of ChatGPT in 2030 will be 1 million times stronger than it is right now. I don't know if that's true, but that's the word in Silicon Valley. I want to hear from your standpoint, where do you see marketers fitting and adding the most value, and where should marketers be kind of paving a path for themselves?
It's a good question. I anticipate, and we're already seeing this in a lot of tech companies in Silicon Valley, which is the kind of merging, and it's long overdue, the merging of marketing and sales together in kind of go-to-market or growth teams. And I think that's going to be, it's going to move very quickly from being only Silicon Valley tech companies to being widespread, particularly within the sort of the challenger segment that we're in. Bigger companies will have, I'd say, growing pains of their own, but they'll be laggards, but they'll get there. But these go-to-market teams, they will be essentially made up of people whose core skills cannot be replaced by AI. Whether that's such as very strong salespeople, no one wants to be sold by a bot. Human connection will matter more than anything. You won't want just a salesperson. You'll want an account manager. You'll want a customer success manager, all in one. So salespeople will have to be all of these. They'll have to be our friends, our partners. They'll have to ensure that we're being successful. And I'm thinking of SaaS specific. And then you'll have marketing. And the role that marketers can bet their career on is not going to be replaced by AI, is, like I was saying, creativity. So I'm guessing we're going back to the madman era of the 70s, where you hire people who think outside the box. You hire the Don Drapers of the world to come pull your brand to places it never thought it could go to. Right? That's who you're going to hire. You're going to look for people who can do things differently. And with that can differentiate your brand from all of the noise that surrounds the consumer. So those are the things that AI won't and shouldn't replace, is critical thinking, creativity, real creativity rooted in human ingenuity and human experience, right? I think I might be completely misquoting here, but I think there was a Sam Altman quote where someone asked him whether AI was going to write a novel at some point, but there's going to be a best-selling novel written by it. And he said, sure, but who'd want to read that? And that's my around creativity, around art, around content. It's AI to get you probably about 80% there, but then the 20% that's going to make you stand out and touch people, that comes from people.
Absolutely. And you see it from LinkedIn influencers who are, master the skill of writing. You can tell they use AI as an input, but it's not their main input. What I hear from you is not only art skills, but soft skills as well, right? It's a mix of both. I think we're back to fundamental of craftsmanship, right? Because that can't be replaced by AI. That's why I'm a big fan of boring businesses nowadays as well, because you think boring businesses will never get replaced by AI. But imagine if you leverage AI to grow your boring business. I think it could be a very interesting avenue.
But you still need people with critical thinking. We see that a lot with Dojo, right? We see the huge difference in Dojo being used by operators, people who take whatever Dojo gives them and publish them, and being used by critical thinkers, people who push the tool to places that even ourselves didn't think the tool could go to. And I think that will always be the case with AI. It's human in the loop, pushing the technology to keep going further and further and further.
Yeah.
And I think that will always be the case.
We can see that nuance, but I'm thinking of a young marketer or salesperson who starts their career, right? And they are AI native. And I'm scared of the fact that they are using AI to replace almost their critical thinking, or at least that's the promise. That muscle is not going to get built for them.
Agreed. That's a problem.
So that is a problem.
That's a problem. I'm of the opinion that we should never lose our critical thinking. It's a humanity should kind of hold on to it as slightly as possible.
So I'd like to change the rhythm a little bit, if you don't mind, and just ask you a few rapid fire questions. Some are related to what we're talking about here. Some are totally unrelated.
Okay.
Ready?
Ready, I think.
One tool that you would sunset tomorrow, that you would terminate tomorrow. One tool.
One tool that I would sunset tomorrow. HubSpot.
HubSpot. Okay, interesting. Most underrated marketing book, in your opinion?
Underrated.
Underrated.
I can give you loads of overrated marketing books, but I'm going to try and give you an underrated one. I'm going to look behind me. I've got loads of marketing books here.
Okay, so let's change that to one that you read recently that really struck something.
But I think Emotion by Design, it's not usually seen as a marketing book, but it's one that I think we should all pay a bit more attention to, as opposed to how brands grow or
reach 10,000 followers in 3 weeks.
I think actually Emotion by Design has an approach that won't grow old.
Okay. I love that. Timeless wisdom. So Slack or Notion?
Notion.
Nice. First concert you ever attended?
Pearl Jam.
Nice.
90s.
Love it. Yeah. The biggest go-to-market buzzword that you secretly love?
That I secretly love. Brand.
What is that one KPI you tattoo on every single dashboard?
One KPI. Customer satisfaction.
Very good. One sentence, a 2030 prediction for AI and marketing. One sentence.
Marketers will be creative again.
Perfect. Love it. A brand that you admire that most marketers overlook.
Oh, that's a brand that I admire that most marketers overlook. That I admire in terms of how they built their brand,
Yes.
marketing.
And we can come back to it. You can think about it.
I'm going to think of it.
If you want. What is your favorite non-work related hobby that really gets your creative flow going?
That would be walking my dog.
Walking your dog.
That's my
Awesome.
that's my creative. That's my creative.
What kind of dog do you have?
I have a
What kind of
Tibetan
dog?
Terrier. He's actually
Nice.
I could probably show it to you.
Oh, he looks exactly like ours. We have a golden doodle. He's same color, everything. I'll send you a picture after so you can compare. So in conclusion, Duarte, I'd like to ask you a question about like one thing B marketers, in your opinion, should stop doing this quarter and one small experiment they should start tomorrow.
So they should stop sending automated outreach. That's one thing that they should stop doing. And they should start onboarding Dojo.
Of course. If they want to do so, like, how do we reach out to you?
So you can find me on LinkedIn. That's the easiest way. DojoAI.com.
I was about to say, we'll put all the link in the in this video. It's been a pleasure having this conversation. I hope we can do that again with your co-founder, maybe at some point, to see the progress of what you've learned in your first year growing this amazing company. Much success.
Thank you very much.
To you.
Thank you.